Okay, well, thank you so much everybody for joining us here. Super excited to have Cormac and everybody involved here tonight. It's going to be an awesome webinar. Fly casting fundamentals here with Cormac and gang from the Mid-Island Castaways Fly Fishing Club. So, yeah, pretty excited to hear what he has to say and have him show us all his tricks in the book there. So, we are going to have a question and answer at the end of the webinar here. So at the end, you can fire away with your messages and we'll all answer them the best we can and are excited to hear what you have to say. And if you want to become a part of the BC Wildlife Federation as well, that would be amazing. We would love to have you. You could go to your local club or your local club that's around, see if they're a part of the BC Wildlife Federation and join that way through your local club, or you can join online direct at BC Wildlife Federation. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Cormac here. Again, thank you guys so much for putting this on and taking the time to put this together. We're super excited to be here.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Monty. So I'm the education chair with Mid-Island Castaways. This is a club that's in the Mid-Island area of Vancouver Island. And we have members from as far south as Chemainus and all the way up to Courtenay. But we're really centered in the Colquhoun and Parksville area. So just in terms of my credentials, in addition to being education chair, I'm the lead casting instructor with our fly fishing club here. And we have a group of about 10 people who have an interest in teaching fly casting. So very, very fortunate. It's a really solid core group with our club. Our club has over the years varied in membership between about 85 and 125, and I think we're just above 85 members at this point in time. One other qualification I have is from Fly Fishers International. They have a fly casting skills development series, and it consists of 4 levels, the top level being gold. And I've achieved that as well as have several of our club members in our instructor group. So first of all, I'd like to start off with some acknowledgements, and I'd like to thank Monty first with BC Wildlife Federation for inviting us to do this. And in our club, Dave Farrar, Bill Gouge, Richard Gosling, and Murray Cohen have contributed to the development of this production. I'd also like to acknowledge Fly Fishers International, both their angler casting education program that I just talked about, but also their casting instructor education programs. I've been involved, engaged in learning directly in courses that I've taken, as well as some online and lots of resource materials from Fly Fishers International that have really helped me come along in terms of my casting and my teaching skills. So in this webinar, we're really aiming at the level of a novice or beginners, but our instructors have learned that some of the drills that we do here, we actually practice them at the beginning of each of our practice sessions. And they're very, very useful. So even if you're an intermediate or perhaps even a more advanced caster, hopefully there will be something in this presentation for you. So we're going to talk about how fly casting works, loops and how they work, how to grip a fly rod, how to stand, the elements of a casting stroke, and we're going to pay quite a bit of attention to a series of 5 drills that are skill building. And these are drills that you can take home on your own and practice. Then we're going to get into 2 foundational casts, the pick up and lay down and the roll cast. And I'm going to do a bit of an introduction to single hand spay for fishing on rivers. Particularly useful here on Vancouver Island throughout BC in situations where you can't do much of a back cast. So how fly casting works? Well, what's unique about fly casting? So I grew up as a prairie boy, fishing for pickerel and pike and whatnot, and I used lures, heavy lures. These are weighted lures that pull a light line off of a reel. Well, fly casting isn't like that. The weight in fly casting is the line itself. It's a distributed weight, and it pulls a light fly through the air and delivers it to the target. So the fly line speeds up as you move your rod tip forward towards the target. And then you stop the rod crisply at the butt. Think about the butt here. And then the fly line continues on past the rod tip uh, and it delivers the fly, hopefully, to a fish. So let's talk a little bit about, I'm going to show you what false casting is all about here. Hopefully you can all see this video. You can see as I stop the rod, a loop forms as the fly line goes beyond the tip of the rod. I want to talk just a minute about false casting. First of all, it's useful for practice, but as a fishing technique, it's not particularly useful. The more time you spend with your fly line in the air, the less time you're presenting a fly to fish. So this is a useful learning technique, useful for practicing, but in a fishing situation, it can be used for drying a dry fly, waving it back and forth. You use it for extending line and using what they call a star cast, where you just change direction as you're casting. You can change direction, but it's really quite a cumbersome technique compared to something I'll show you a little bit later on. Loops. So a loop of fly line forms after the loaded rod, the bent rod stops. Then the fly line continues on. And these are some terms that we'll be talking about as we go through. So parts of a loop. There's a top leg, as you can see in the picture here. There's a bottom leg and a nose. So the fast moving part of a fly line is that top leg. And what we're trying to do is to have a straight top leg. That's the most efficient form. Now, in this series of photographs, you can see at the top, we've got a narrow or a tight loop. This is aerodynamic because it presents a very little surface area of the nose to the wind, to the air, and it'll cut through the air quite efficiently. Whereas a wide loop is not aerodynamic, and it can be useful. For example, if you're tossing a very large fly or an indicator rig where you don't want the lines to come together too closely, it can be useful. The shape of a loop that you don't want is the tailing loop. So emphasis on bad. This causes wind knots. It's not really wind knots. What it is caused by the fly leg crossing the bottom leg a couple of times, and you can see how that would result in a knot. We've in our practice sessions with the instructors, we try to do the most spectacular tailing loops we possibly can. Sometimes it's not just the leader that tangles, but we can actually tangle up the fly line itself. It's kind of fun to do, but you have to straighten yourself out afterwards. Okay, next, how to grip a fly rod. So we're going to talk about three grips here. The first one is the thumb on top grip, and it has all around purposes, all around uses. And the next one is an index finger on top. And this is a particularly useful one for doing short, accurate casts. Um, Now, if you're into tennis, you might recognize this next one called a V grip. This is a very powerful grip, and distance casters often use it. So I'm just going to grab a fly rod here and, for emphasis, show you how we position our hand. So if I'm doing the thumb on top grip, I'm going to run my handle from the base of my index finger down to the meaty base of my hand right here. And I'm going to put my thumb on top, and then I'm going to close my fingers like that. You notice my thumb does not go beyond the end of the cork here. I like to be back just a little ways. The index finger on top grip is like this. And so you can see how you're in this type of a position. You can be quite accurate. You can bring your delivery of your fly line very close to your line of sight right here. So that from a binocular standpoint, that allows us to have a very tight focus on a target. The other grip is called a V grip, and it's also called a handshake grip. So it's basically you're going to shake somebody's hand, and it looks like that. And what this does is it positions that knuckle right on top here, or very close to being on top, and it's a very firm grip. Now, here's a little secret to the grip in this next slide: hand tension. So you're mainly going to be holding your rod so that it doesn't twist in your hand with your thumb and your index finger like that. These other fingers you're going to hold very loosely on the rod butt, and they come into play to help you stop the rod at the end of a stroke. Squeeze. We're going to be talking about that squeeze quite a bit. On the backstroke, squeeze and then relax and get ready for the next cast. The other element here is how you place your feet. So there are basically three stances. Square, you can see the picture on the left, where your feet are about shoulder width apart and square to your target. And that's a good stance. We often teach beginners to use that stance when they're just learning how to cast. But it's useful in fishing as well. A closed stance is where you put your rod foot forward. And this is a particularly good position to have your feet in if you're doing accuracy casting, for, combined with the index finger on top grip. The open stance is where you take your rod foot and you put it back. Now, this allows you to do certain things. You can actually watch your back cast a little bit better. And if you're doing distance casting, that's a really good idea to watch your back cast. And you can get your timing down correctly that way. It also allows you to use body rock as well, which helps put more mass behind your cast. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And to lengthen your casting stroke. And so it's good for distance casting and just any type of cast. That's pretty well the stance that I use. I prefer it when I'm in a river. I maintain my balance a little bit better when I have my feet positioned that way. So this is more definitional. These are terms that I'll be talking about. The casting arc, which is the angle of change of the rod butt. For example, this rod butt is going to change from that position to that position. And that angular rotation, or if you like, we might think of it as a piece of pie. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about a casting arc. Stroke length is the distance moved by the rod butt. The displacement is the distance the rod tip actually moves. So that's a small amount of movement. That's a lot of movement. The stop, this is where, as we talked about, the loop is formed. So you want a crisp deceleration of the rod butt. Pause is the time between strokes when the line rolls out. And this is a challenging concept to explain. It's called acceleration. But the easiest way to think about it is you're going to start slow and speed up in an even fashion through the stroke. Boom, like that. And so you start slow and finish fast. And put a word here as well, smooth. TH being the emphasis where the stop comes in. So here's some diagrams that might help you understand this a little bit more. So the narrow casting arc, small piece of the pie, and it's good for the for shorter casts. A wide casting arc, as your line gets longer, you want a bigger piece of the pie. And so this is an illustration of the casting stroke length. So you're moving your hand on short casts, short distance, but if you're going to put out that long line, you're going to want to add more force over distance by opening up your casting stroke. And what this results in is a wider displacement of the rod tip as well. Now, body movements and elbow positions this is an important consideration in fly casting. Basically, there's three joints involved. We've got a shoulder joint, an elbow joint, and then finally the wrist. The wrist is the weakest. So if all you're doing is using your wrist, you're going to be able to do some short casts, and eventually that wrist is you're going to get tendonitis if that's all you're doing. So what we like to do is to use the combination of the upper arm, so that's a rotation of the shoulder, and then the lower arm here, the rotation from the elbow, and then a fast movement right at the very end that comes with the squeeze. So watch what happens to my wrist with the squeeze, squeeze. And on the relax, on the back cast, squeeze. And that's about as much wrist movement as you really need in a cast over all lengths of cast. Um, if you wanted to add more force, more mass behind your cast, you can actually add in a body rock. And so where in an open stance, you put your body's weight on your rod foot and then rock forward, rock your body forward. And so that increases the distance over which you're applying power or force, and you can get good line velocity that way. Okay, we're going to talk about elbow positions. So there are basically three elbow positions. So the one that I often use and what we use for teaching is the elbow low and to the front, as you can see here. And by using your shoulder muscles, you're going to be raising and lowering that elbow, and you have full play with your forearm as well. Elbow low and to the side, the motion is slightly different. We're talking about sliding your elbow along a rail. So notice my shoulder is moving here. So I'm putting my shoulder muscle in, and then I do my rotation there. And coming back, I do the same thing. I'm leading with my elbow, but I'm using that big muscle right here. And there's a very famous casting instructor, Lefty Kreh, who taught this method. And when I'm casting, if I'm changing distances of the length of my cast, I'll actually move between these elbow positions. Um, Now, in the bottom diagram and bottom photograph here, you can see an elbow high position. So uh, my elbow, my upper arm is above 90 degrees. And this is okay if you're sitting in a pontoon boat. Um, you might need to do that just to elevate your rod tip above the water so you don't tick the water behind you. And that's fine. I've seen people who can't cast very well wade out on the beach to within 2 inches of the top of their waders and have their elbow high, and they're basically waving their rod around like this. Not very effective cast at all. The problem with it as well is if you have a shoulder problem, it's likely to irritate it. Okay, slack is evil. So what you want is tension in your line throughout a cast. And the rule is that you can't move a fly until you remove the slack. So in the diagram here, we've got two forms of slack. First of all, on the ground, we've got a pile of line. And you can imagine if I pulled that line back, I wouldn't be able to move the fly until I had removed all of that slack. The other arrow is a uh, a form of slack uh, in that the rod tip is well above the ground and you're into your casting stroke already, and so you can't move the fly until you get rid of that, till you get a tight line connection back to your fly. So that's a form of slack as well. Slack can come from too long of a pause when you're waiting for the line to roll out, and you get a gravity effect of the line being pulled down to the ground or the water. Or for that matter, if you have too brief a pause, then your line hasn't rolled out, and you've got to make up for all of that slack by applying more force, and that often results in a tailing loop. Okay, we're going to get into some drills now. So we've got a series of 5 drills, and the first one is just simply feeling how the fly line follows the rod tip. And so we call it feeling the rod bend. And we do circles, ovals, and eights. And I'm going to show you a cast at the very end of this video called an oval or Belgian cast. It's a constant tension cast, and it's a very practical fishing cast for when you have heavy flies and indicator rigs. It's also useful for changing direction, and it can be useful in a situation where you have a moderate wind on your casting shoulders. It keeps the fly away from you. So let's have a look at what it looks like. Okay, now this is in slow motion. It's a quarter speed, gives you an idea. So I'm using about 12 feet of line beyond the tip, and I'm simply drawing circles and I'm watching. And in order to have a fairly flat circle, I've got to have a certain amount of speed as well. So this teaches you that. Okay, now I'm tilting it on its side and I'm drawing ovals in the air. Again, I don't want to tick the ground, so I've got to have enough speed to do it. So this is making a connection between your brain and your hand. That distance can seem fairly far sometimes. I'm drawing figure eights now. So we have students go through this exercise to get a feel for the rod and line interaction. All right, now this is the cast I was telling you about, a constant tension cast. Very, very practical. So I'm going to just move that back slightly, play one through and deliver and down onto the ground. Okay, now I'm going to describe for you how this works. I'm going to bring my rod tip up to just above the horizontal, and I'm going to pull it backwards, and I'm going to watch my fly line, and I'm going to maintain constant tension as we do this. So up, pull it back. I'm watching the fly line now, and it's swinging around, swinging back. When it gets back, I'm in a position to now deliver the fly forward. But I have not lost contact with my fly at any point in this cast. So it's not like false casting where you're waiting for a pause for the line to roll out. The line has rolled out at this point, and then it gets delivered. So we'll just run one through again. Low, over the top, and there it is. So that's the Belgian cast or the constant tension cast. The next drill is the triangle drill. I had the fortune of teaching a student who had never had a fly rod in his hand before. And within 15 minutes, I had him doing some absolutely beautiful casts using this triangle drill method. And really it teaches the power of the stop and a number of elements of the cast. Um, we use a short line, only about 12 feet of fly line out the rod tip. And we're rotating mainly around the forearm, using the forearm around the elbow joint. And we're learning how to stop the rod with a squeeze, and this gets you casting immediately. So there's three exercises in this drill, and let's run through them. So here's the first one. Now, at this point, what I'm doing is I've got three cones on the ground. The outside cones are 12 feet apart. This one's at the 6 foot center. And I'm standing back with my rod tip in about this position, about 8 to 10 inches in front of the cone. So I'm measuring that, so I've got the right distance. And this allows me to have an appropriate casting arc for that amount of line. Let's play it. I'm lifting it up, just making sure my wind is blowing it here a little bit, but making sure the fly line comes down and maybe a foot or so is actually touching the ground. Okay, these outside cones are, consider them stop signs. Stop signs with a kind of a post up in the air here and another one over here. So I'm just moving the rod back and forth. So I'm training my brain and my hand to recognize where those posts are, where the stop signs are up in the air. Okay, now I'm going to start moving my rod a little bit faster. Okay, and all of a sudden the line is starting to aerialize. Now I'm going to put in a squeeze here. Squeeze, and look what happened to the line. As soon as I put the squeeze in, I started getting a nice loop. Squeeze, squeeze. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Here I have my lovely assistant Dave, who is playing the role of a student. And we're going to do a technique that is useful if you have a casting buddy. In this case, there's an instructor and a student, and it's face-to-face mirroring. So we're set up in the same way. We're going to do exactly the same exercise. And so we point to the stop signs to begin with, make sure that we're dialed in and we know where to stop the rod tip. Okay, now we're going to speed up and try to stay in sync, Dave. I got a smile from him. I can see him on the screen here. Okay. All right. Now we're going to put in the squeeze and you can see what happens to the fly line. Okay, so we've learned an awful lot about casting a fly line and forming loops at that point. So let's move on to the next third part of this drill. And this is side-by-side mirroring. So the student and I turn sideways to the cones. And we're going to learn to put the stops in um, when we have a target out through here. So we consider that there would be a fish located on the line someplace out here. So we're going to do that now sideways. Okay, same deal. Point at the stop sign. We're going to move back to the back stop sign. And we go through the same process again. Now the student is asked to follow follow my rod tip movement. So we're trying to keep this together. Okay, let's move on. I'll show you what it looks like. So now we're casting, and the student is mirroring the instructor's movements. Okay, so that's the triangle drill. Gets you casting with a short line. The third drill is called the horizontal drill. And it teaches appropriate acceleration, speed up and stop. And the first in the series, we actually dropped the line as well. And we're going to start by rotating the reel face upwards. And when I say upwards, what I mean is we're just going to turn it that way. Turn it to the inside so that our thumb is on top, but off to this side now. And that's how this casting exercise is done. We're going to drop the line to begin with, and then we're going to raise the rod tip up and try to keep the line in the air. Okay, so that's what it looks like. We're trying to get ourselves organized here. So again, the student is following my rod tip and drops it on the ground. I want to point out a couple of things here in instruction. That's the basic technique, and I'll show you a couple of errors. I think it's the next one coming up. So here what I'm doing is I'm pointing out that I have applied too much force. And my live fly line is actually curled around on the ground like this. Now, that might be a nice curve cast for some situations, but not useful in this exercise. So I've applied too much force, so I have to back off a little bit. Now, if I cast back the other way and I apply too little force, watch what happens. And my line has just puddled around in here, and I haven't had enough force there. So the rest of the exercise then is appropriate acceleration to a stop. Okay, and I'll just speed this up a bit. And away we go. And we're doing it together again. So the second one, part of this is trying to keep the line in the air. So to do this, we have to fight gravity. So we have to go a little bit faster and apply a little bit more force. So we're speeding up and we're trying to not let that line drop to the ground. So this is real-time acceleration. So we're doing good now. Okay. So that's drill number 3, the horizontal drill. The next one we do is lengthening the cast, adjusting timing, the amount of force we put in, and the arc. And in this case, if you notice on the ground, I've got double cones at the stop signs. So as we talked about earlier, as you increase the length of your cast, you have to increase the piece of pie, the casting arc, the amount of rotation you put in your rod. Uh, and so so what we do is we lengthen the amount of line we have out the tip. We start using the stop signs on the outside. And those stop signs on the outside are 14 feet apart. The inside ones are 12 feet apart. I'm also teaching here use of the line hand, keeping your hands close together. So first of all, holding on to your line. I'll just illustrate that here. So I'm holding on to my line like this with my line hand, and that's to keep control. And to begin with, we teach that you want to, as you're casting, you want to move your hands together, whichever plane you're working in. Move those hands together. You can keep them perhaps about shoulder length apart, but always move them together. There's a whole bunch of reasons for doing that to begin with, and we can maybe address some of that in the question period. So we're lengthening line, and we keep the line in the air, and away we go. Now, for those of you who would like to come back and view this a second time, I've got quite a bit of text here on line management, slipping and shooting line, but I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on this because it's all text-based. But the idea behind it is you strip a loop of line off the reel and let it hang down to the ground. So maybe about 6 feet of line. And then as you're casting, you gradually let the line slip through your fingers like this, just a little bit at a time, maybe a foot at the maximum. And finally, on your last cast, when you want to shoot your line, what you do is form a ring around your line and just let it go. Now, if you're in a real fishing situation, you don't want to stay like that. What you want to do is transfer your line from your line hand underneath a finger and against the cork. And what this will allow you to do then will be to manage that line and be able to strip in and actually fish your fly. Climb the wall is the very last of the drills. And what we're talking about here is horizontal casting. We've been doing a lot of that. And that's useful, for example, if you want to deliver a fly under a branch, or you want to keep the fly away from you if you have an on-shoulder wind. And But if you want to present for example, a small dry fly delicately, then you probably want to be more in a vertical position. Drop it down delicately on the water. So this drill teaches you how to change planes. So we've got a video to show this. So what I'm doing is I lifted my rod tip up to just above the horizontal, and now I'm going to start casting. Now I'm playing this one at half speed. So do a couple of forward false casts, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my rod tip and up into a different plane. Do another couple of false casts. And then I'm going to go up again. Couple of false casts. Then I'm going to come up to eventually up to near vertical. And I'm going to work my way back down again. So that's the drill is called climb the wall. Okay, want to give you descriptions of a couple of really practical fishing casts. These are not change of direction casts. We'll get into that momentarily. But the pick up and lay down cast, or the four-part cast, as it's also called, is a fundamental cast. It involves one back cast and one forward cast, and it allows you to quietly lift the line off the water and recast the fly to the fish. You start with your rod tip down on the water. We're using about 35 feet from your foot to the fly. That's a good manageable length to be starting to learn how to do this. We lift the rod first, then accelerate it or flick it into the back cast, and then we pause, and then we do a forward cast and stop, and then lower it to the water. So this is what it looks like. And I'm running this at quarter speed again. So I do a lift, a flick, a pause, a forward cast, a stop, and then I lower to the water again. Well, we'll do this, and I'm going to stop it. So the lift is done fairly slowly, right to about there. And I don't think you can quite see it, but at this point, my fly line is pretty straight, right down to where the nail knot would be, the end of your fly line on the water. So in other words, there's tension in that cast already. There's no slack. And when I get it to this point, then I'm going to do a quick flick into the back cast. And I want to show you where I stop. So my forearm is almost straight up in the air. And that, because I've got a thumb on top grip, that puts my rod tip back at about this position here. So it's really quite high. Now I'm going to wait for that loop to roll over, the fly line to roll over, but not fall too much towards the water. And then I start my next cast right here. All right, so they call it the four-part cast, and this is why. This is the tempo. So 1, 2, pause, 3, stop, and 4. Now that's a pick up and lay down cast, and it works particularly well on water, but you can do it on grass as well. The next cast is the roll cast. And we're going to do the static roll cast, which is not particularly useful for fishing, but it is a foundational cast that will get you going into what I call the roll cast family. You need to use roll cast when you have obstacles behind, so it's really just half a cast. It's useful for freeing a fly from a snag. Uh, you do a slow lift to fish the fly on the back way in as you're forming a D loop. And it has other practical applications. There's a roll cast pickup that allows you to take slack out of your line. So let's have a look at how this is done. Now in this video, I'm facing the camera just to show you the angle of the rod. I've got my wrist kind of almost on the outside of my elbow here. I want that rod tilted over to the side a bit so that that prevents an unfortunate accident when perhaps the fly would hit the back of your head. So you want to make sure that you have that tilt. And let's have a look at how the cast is done. Now I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I'm organizing my line here. There. Okay. So we'll start from that. So we want to form a D loop. So I'm going to do a lift, and I'm actually fishing the fly at this point as I'm doing that lift. Coming back slow, and chances are an aggressive trout is going to grab that fly while you're doing this. Come back, and I'm reaching behind me so I can get some line behind me to form the D loop. Then I lift up into the position you saw with me facing straight on. And I'm going into a position we call the key or the firing position. And you notice my elbow is up slightly here. My hand is at temple or top, even top of my head level. My arm is pretty well, the forearm is pretty well straight up in the air. And the cast consists of two parts. Using your shoulder muscles to lower your arm, get a forward rotation, and that's a slow movement. And then a quick movement of your forearm and wrist. So here's what it looks like, but in slow motion. So elbow down, and then quick. And the fly line flies out. So let's watch a couple of them. So the line is organized, rod tip close to the water. I'm going to pull it around and into the position of forming a D loop. Going to come up into the firing position. And this time, call your attention to a little check. So I'm actually going to look at my hand. Have I got the right position? My forearm is straight up in the air. I'm ready to go. My arm is slightly out in front of my face so I can see everything going on. Now I'm ready to go. So the motion is slow, quick. And that's the static roll cast. Now, the static roll cast can be, you don't have to be on water. It works very nicely on water, but you can also work in a sports field, short grass in this case. And we've got some roll cast tools here that we use. So the plastic crown in the middle has got a slot that the fly, in this case just a piece of yarn, will sit in and will anchor your cast. When you're on water, water tension serves as an anchor to anchor your cast. But when you're in grass, it's pretty slippery stuff. We've got a wedge out of plastic, does exactly the same thing that you can shove into the grass on the left-hand side. And if you don't have anything fancy like that, even just a clipboard will do. It won't release the fly, but it will at least let you to very efficiently set up into the D loop and key position and then fire. Now we're getting into some more useful casts. This is now an application of the roll cast called a dynamic roll cast. There's more energy than in a static roll cast. The line never stops moving. And you can get more distance out of it. You can cast heavier flies. So let's just have a look at it here. Right. So I'm dragging the fly line across the water, forming the D-loop, and before the D-loop uh, collapses, I'm casting. So lift, drag it back, lift up, fire. So this is the dynamic roll cast. Fly line never leaves the water as you're setting up. You're dragging that fly across and cast. So that's the dynamic. Now, if you want to go even further, this is a foundational cast called the switch cast for learning how to do single hand spay. It's more energized than the dynamic roll cast, requires more force and timing finesse. It requires a lot of practice to be able to do this. You'll see I make some errors in the next video that I'm willing to admit to because I'm still practicing all the time. Um, so let's have a look at what it looks like. We're going to actually lift the line off the water during the sweep as we come back. So it's a little bit faster. Poof, and away she goes. Now, one of the things that is really important as you're doing this is watch that fly line. We're trying to get it to hit the water someplace at the end of the fly line, someplace right around in this area here. And as soon as it does, we're ready to, we're already up as we've circled up into the firing position and we're going to cast. So, poof, away she goes. A very quick cast to do. Again, I've got about 35 feet foot to fly. And that's a good length of line to practice with. Get it out of the water, up, cast. So that's the switch cast. And that sets you up then, once you're able to do that, into these change of direction roll casts that are so useful for fishing in rivers. It's used to change the direction of cast from downstream to across the stream. And we're going to show you a couple of sustained waterborne anchor casts, the double spay and the circle C. Depending on how you practice it, can be called the snap T as well. It's just a little bit quicker movement. But circle C, and so this allows you to change the direction of your cast. You want to be able to do these cack-handed, and when I say cack-handed, it's an off-shoulder, so this is an on-shoulder cast. This is cack-handed cast. You want to be able to do it off of opposite shoulders. Rivers don't always flow in the same direction, and the wind doesn't always blow from the same direction either. So you need to develop that flexibility in your casting. So learn how to do these casts off the opposite shoulder. And I'm going to throw in a little bit of a bonus here as well called the snake roll, which is a real fun cast to do that allows you to change direction quite quickly. So let's look at the first one. This is the double spay. So the river is flowing in this direction. My line is on the dangle. And I want to cast across the river in this direction. So that's a change of direction of maybe 60 to 90 degrees that you can do with this cast quite readily. So this is how it works. If I do a lift, I pull the line across, and my rod tip is on the water, and away I go. Well, I'm going to break this down for you. This is just line organization. It's a snake roll. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so I'm going to lift. When I get to this position, it's a slow lift. And when I get to this position, you can see that I've got my line there's tension all the way down to the water level in that line. When I get to this position, I'm simply going to speed up and cross over, and I'm going to put my rod tip slightly behind me here. And what I'm really trying to do is position my anchor, the end of my fly line, roughly in this position right here. So let's see if we can pick that up on this. So there, boom, down. So my fly line has wound up about a fly rod length, slightly in front of me. And towards the far shore and right about in this position. Now what I'm doing is I turn my torso. This is really an important part of this cast. You want to turn your torso, and then as you're doing your circling up, you want to twist your torso and follow your fly rod. So let's take a look at this. So twist your torso, come circle up, and away we go. Now I've got one more thing to point out to you that you're going to be watching for. And let's see if we can pick it up here. All right, so up slow, pull over, form your anchor, turn your torso. All right, come up into the key position now. I want you to watch what my fly line is doing here. I'm not ready for a cast yet. What I want, my fly line is still pointed out in this direction. I want to wait until my fly line has straightened out on the water, the end of my fly line, and is pointing at my target. So I'm waiting, so timing is everything here. I'm watching the end of my fly line all the time. So you saw that. So the line flipped around from this direction, came around to here. It's now pointing across the river, and I'm ready to go. Let's watch one again. Okay. Lift, pull over, turn your torso, follow your rod around, come a circle up, line is ready to go, straightened out, and you cast. Okay, the next one is the Circle C, and this I'm on the other side of the river now, so the river is actually flowing in this direction. And what I want to do is form my anchor upstream this time. So this is the way it looks. Okay, now I'll describe how this is done. Reorganize the line. Okay. We're going to do a lift up to this position, rough here, right there. So that's a slow lift. You can see the line is straight down to my the end of my fly line. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a C in the air. It's just a quick C. So I start slow and I end quick with my rod tip down at water level, slightly behind me. And what that'll do is throw my line upstream to form the sustained anchor. Like that, the line comes up and my anchor is roughly around in there. And then the movement to do this cast is identical to the double spay. So circle around, circle up, fly line straightens out towards your target, and away you go. Okay, that's circle C, snap T. And then finally, this is just kind of a whiz bang type of a cast. It's fun to do, but you can make some quick changes in direction with the snake line. Well, I'm not going to belabor this one too much. So from the dangle downstream, I went across stream. Now I'm going to go the other way with it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this is a cast that I really prefer using when I can't have a back cast. Very, very quick to deliver. And it operates on exactly the same principles. Firing position exactly the same. Okay. Now, this is some important messaging. These biomechanical skills take time and practice to develop. So I encourage people just getting going to take some formal lessons, or even if you want to improve techniques, take some lessons, get some help from a casting instructor. Practice frequently. And the emphasis here is before you go fishing. The worst time to begin developing your skills, casting skills, is when you're fishing. Your focus is on something else. So another thing is don't practice failure. If it's not going so well, seek some help or back up one or more steps if you're not succeeding. There's some great written materials and video materials and whatnot out there that will help you think about these biomechanical skills as well. One of the things we haven't talked about is the value of pantomime to practice movement. So one of my favorite pantomimes is just standing in front of a mirror and actually going through the motion so you can actually watch yourself doing it. And all I'm using is the butt section of my rod for doing that. And we quite often, when we're doing our teaching, we'll go through pantomime with no rod in hand, with the butt of the rod, with the rod no line on it, and then we go to a line. So one thing that uh, the casting instructors will tell you is that practice only makes permanent. So if you've got a casting fault and error and you practice that, guess what? It's going to stick. Uh, and so perfect practice makes perfect. So we leave it there, and I want to give you a little story. Um, every May on the Mother's Day weekend, Mid Island Castaways offers a 2 day and 2 evening course for novice fly fishers and for people wanting to improve their skills. It's backed up by a manual that's close to 200 pages. And this year, this is one of our students. After the course, a couple of weeks after the course, we organized a fish out up to the Elk River, located west of Campbell River, where there's a very strong run of rainbow trout in from the lake. This young lady had never caught a fish on a fly before, and she was a pretty good caster as well. Anyway, this is the second fish she caught. The first fish she caught was a Dolly Varden, the rarest fish in the river system. The second fish she caught was a cutthroat, the second rarest fish in the system. And then she caught a whole bunch of rainbows for the rest of the day. So she was into biodiversity that day. Anyway, it's kind of a fun story. So with that, we'll turn it over to the moderator to handle questions through chat. And if you have any questions you'd like to get a hold of us, there's an email address here, info@midislandcastaways.com. So thank you all for listening.
Awesome. Thanks, Cormac. That was great. I'm just gonna pull up the question and answer here, see if I can figure out how to get everybody to see it. All right. Looks like I can see 4 or 5 in here. All right. The first one is, will this presentation be open to view after the presentation tonight? If yes, where will I be able to find it? So you'll be able to find it online on BC Wildlife Federation's YouTube page, and I believe, Cormac, you guys will be putting it somewhere on your site as well.
Is that correct, Dave? Dave is
Uh,
our president, so there we go.
Yeah, we'll have it up on our website as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so you can find it there. And then the second question looks like it's the same gentleman or person. How does someone become a certified caster like yourself and your team members?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to point out that while I've done a lot of study and had a lot of coaching and resource material from Fly Fishers International, I'm not a certified instructor. The road is a little bit too steep for me, and Canada is sometimes a little bit too far away from Vancouver Island as well. So there's some logistic issues for me, but I've been working on developing casting and teaching skills since 2018. I've been involved in teaching. I would really recommend that if you're interested in that, is you go to Fly Fishers International website, and they have some wonderful resource material if you have an interest in becoming a casting instructor. And It's a pretty clear process that they put in place and lots of materials for you.
Awesome. Perfect. And yeah, those were from Leonard, it looks like name-wise. So the next is Susan. They say they're asking, will this be available online after? And we just covered that. Yes, it will be on two different places, our YouTube and also theirs. And then Ed asks, how do you know that you have too much lines stripped out?
When you're casting? That's a great question. So, uh, uh, understand the taper or construction of your fly line. So we mostly use weight forward fly lines these days that has a head, the thick part of the fly line, and if you want to fire more than that, then you're going to have to learn to carry line. But as a general recommendation, once you know your head length, don't try to carry any more than maybe 7 to 8 feet of overhang, which is the skinny part of your fly line. Um, uh, don't try to carry any more than that. Learn how to slip and shoot line.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right, next up, Chris asks, where can we find casting courses?
Oh, okay. There are a number of fly shops in the Lower Mainland who offer casting lessons. Uh, but on the Mother's Day weekend, come and join us on Vancouver Island. We've got a 2 full day course, and part of that is casting. We spend the mornings in the classroom and the afternoons in the casting field and tying knots. We have a stream ecology evening where we have a couple of biologists come down, and we're seining for bugs, and it's a great deal of fun. And then we have another kind of a bonus casting lesson in an evening. So that's what we do locally. And I would say go to your local fly shop and ask about other opportunities that they might offer.
Perfect. And so, yeah, Chris, if you're close, it looks like you can get a hold of them at info at midislandcastaways.com there in that email at the end of the webinar. All right, next, Ed asks again, what causes a knot to form in the leader or tippet?
Ah,
Yeah.
that is just a great question. So we're talking about a line being bad, right? So what causes that is, let's see if I can illustrate it a little bit. Uh, what we're trying to do with a good cast, if it is to have a straight path of the rod tip as we're going through the casting arc, okay? And what's happening as we start going forward this way, our rod begins to bend as we're applying force. And so it's kind of following a straight line right through here. And when you stop it, then the rod delivers. The line keeps on going. When you're producing a tailing loop, which causes the wind knots, at some point in the cast, you've either got too short an arc for the amount of force that you're putting in, and it causes that rod tip to bend down like this and kind of form a dip in the rod tip path. And that dip propagates through your fly line. And when your fly leg crosses the bottom leg twice, you're in a position to form a knot. Okay, so that's one. Another one is a jackrabbit start. So instead of starting slow and finishing fast, another is going to 0 to 60 by doing 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 kilometers an hour. You start fast and then slow down. That causes a dip in the rod tip path. But actually, anytime you apply too much force during the cast, you can get that dip, and that's what causes the tailing loop.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Next up, again, I'm not the greatest with names, so I might bastardize people's names here a little bit, but looks like up next is Natalie potentially. And they're asking, how might I go about finding an instructor if I live rural, for example, Castlegar, BC?
Well, again, Castlegar, BC, I think there is the closest one that I'm aware of, closest school I'm aware of, is operated by the Grants down in it's the Okanagan Fly School. Um, I would also suggest that you join a local club and see whether or not people in the club would be willing to teach. Um, that's the best thing I would suggest. The other thing is contact us. So you've got the contact information here, and maybe we can take this offline, and I can coach you a little bit.
Perfect. Chris, who was asking about casting courses there, he just says he's in Chemainus, so that's relatively close to be able to come and join you guys there. And then again, Natalie, again, if I'm saying that wrong, they say, do you tie your own flies or buy?
Um, I buy flies as templates, and then I tie my own. Uh, But the Mid Island Castaways actually offers a fly tying course for beginners, and that is 5 Sunday afternoons in January and February. So that'll be coming up. And we provide all the equipment and materials. So again, join a local club, become a member of a local club, and hopefully they're affiliated as we are with BC Wildlife Federation. And they often have fly tying bees, and you can learn from some other people.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. And we also actually, if you become a member of the BC Wildlife Federation, we have some online courses as well that you can watch. So that would be super great. And then Ed says here, where does he find a buck like the one on your wall there?
That one was south of the Cypress Hills in Alberta a good number of years ago.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. And then, yeah, everybody just says, thank you so much. David says, thanks so much for a great presentation. And Ed also says, thanks so much for the answers and much appreciated. So that wraps up the question and answers. So, well, that was fantastic. You guys, thank you so, so much. The videos were amazing. I know it took time to put those together and go out and film those. So really appreciate it. Really well done. Really shows the casting stroke and how to do it properly. And I hope people can go back and watch this over and over and over and get good information from it. And yeah, reach out to you guys if they have any more questions and so on.
So Bill has just passed me a note, something else that people might be interested in. We've adopted the Fly Fishers International Casting Skills Development Series. There's 4 levels: foundation, beginner, intermediate, and the higher level. So roughly mirroring what the Fly Fishers International has. We've adapted it rather for our needs here on the island, and our instructors in particular are going through this. We have quite a few of them who have attained now level 4, which is equivalent to Fly Fishers International Gold, except we make it a little bit harder. We added 2 more casts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, that wraps it up. Again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to put this together. We really appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a blast. Even I learned something.
Great.
You're very
Okay,
welcome.
awesome.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Monty.
Yep. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Take care.
Take care. Bye.